Okay, so recording is on. I think we can start. I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce today's speaker, who is Alessandro Galeazzi. He's a scientist. I don't know the exact position. He will talk about it himself, but he's a scientist right now in at the University of Padua. And today's talk will be about polarization, and then a social talk, which a discussion, which will be more about how to choose research visits, how to approach them, how to get most out of them from Alessandro's experience.
You have
you have the presentation. Can you just, I don't know, share your screen? Ah, yes.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Where is full screen? You maybe full screen. So hello everybody, as Basti, and thank you Basti for inviting me here. As you said, I am a scientist, maybe not a scientist. I don't know if I'm a scientist. Anyway, I'm working at the University of Padua now as assistant professor in the department of mathematics, but just because the University of Padua doesn't have a department of computer science actually, so that's why I'm here. I'm there, and I will speak to you about polarization online, its evolution, how to measure it, and what we can do on its relationship with the echo chamber, and what we can do to reduce that. So let's start. So first, what is polarization? There are many definitions, many senses in which one can define polarization. Okay, if you go to some, for example, social scientists, they will speak about partisanships or group animosity, or if you go to some more like psychological oriented study, you can find something like more affective polarization, sometimes like affective polarization. With the advent of social media, this concept are not news, of course. I guess that the most trivial, the first measure of polarization is on politics, because it's the easiest to define and to measure, probably. So the point is that in this environment, nowadays we have this environment of online social media where different topics are debated, and we say that usually or often, I would say usually, debates are polarized. So you have you have a pro and against vaccination, Democrats, Republicans, I don't know, pro and against climate change policies, mitigation, policies mitigation. So basically, the sense in which I, at least, okay, I will speak about polarization is this split into opposite communities, this distribution of opinion that is often result into two opposite faction, okay, fighting among each other. So basically, this is the concept is what you see here. So a lot of people on one side, a lot of people on the other side, and few people in the middle. When we see something like this, we say that the debate is polarized. Okay, and so why social media results in polarization? This is probably a complex phenomenon, and that results of that is the consequence, or maybe also is causing all of this, or some of these other effects. So, for example, there is the concept of echo chamber that has been taught to increase polarization. So the fact that I just interact with people that hold similar beliefs may increase okay, the distance between these two factions, between these two parties, okay, and then you have also selection bias, and the last but not least, the feed algorithm can increase the polarization among online users. This because they reduce they narrow your your information space, and so you probably perceive this is of course something that one should demonstrate. Probably you start perceiving the other part much more different from you than what it is. So these results, the interplay of all these phenomena contribute to polarization, and probably polarization itself contribute to the rise of one of these of some of these phenomena. But why we should care about polarization? Well, because polarization itself is not something inherently bad. For example, if you try to poll opinions in a regime, okay, under a regime, you probably won't find polarization. You won't find a unimodal distribution, okay, maybe extreme, but unimodal. So everybody agree that the leader is great, and that is not good at all as well. So the problem is not polarization itself, is extreme polarization. It was when these two or this multiple system become more and more segregated, and this can cause from consequences from political deadlocks. So, for example, you cannot reach an agreement on climate change policies, okay, and then you can think about highly polarized people are more likely to adopt dangerous behavior, such you don't get vaccinated or some other dangerous behavior, and as well as the most extreme, probably the most extreme evidence, I would say. Maybe not, it's not evidence, but it's like the most meaningful events that happen at Capitol Hill, when you have and this was happened at the same time of the highest peak of polarization in the US. So the Capitol Hill assault and corresponded to the peak of polarization in the US. So that's why you are interested to study polarization. Social media seems to be somewhat related to real world. Okay, so assessing the level of polarization. Okay, and especially not the level but the evolution of polarization can tell us whether the polarization in the society is increasing or decreasing. So what we need to measure polarization, and to measure especially the evolution of polarization. First, a debated topic, because if no one is debating, you cannot have enough data to measure polarization. Then you need at least to sample at different time, okay? So you can compare them. And the third is a method to infer users' opinion. There are plenty of methods to infer users' opinion. Here we will say the one that I believe is more powerful and very suitable to like a wide range of application. Usually it requires a bit of structure, but once you have the structure, it works really well with very few data, actually. So this is the three ingredients we need to measure polarization. And this is the techniques. This is a bit of hocus pocus, how Romualdo Pastor Satorat said at Complex Network 2023, and I liked it really a lot. So how to quantify this shift, okay, among communities in a debate? So you take the retweet network in 2 different times, you select a set of influencers, okay, and you create this interaction matrix where you have influencer on the column and users on the row, and the entries are the number of time user retweeted one of him or interacted. This works also with usually I'm speaking about retweet because I will show this with Twitter data. But if you have any other interaction in any other social media, this can be adapted as well. Actually, this was first proposed with followers relationship, but it works nicely also with tweets and also with quotes. It's just a bit, maybe a little bit more noisy, but the results are qualitatively the same. So what you take this retweet network, this interaction network, you select a set of influencers, you create this matrix of interaction between this influencer and these users. You perform this algorithm that is correspondence analysis. Is essentially single value decomposition with some preprocessing steps, and then you estimate with this result, you estimate the user's ideologies. So given the influencer set, this procedure is only based on the topological properties of the matrix, okay? So everything you will find will depend on the set of influence you select. More precisely, how this is working. So there is this technique that is correspondence analysis that given a matrix, okay, it normalizes the matrix, then you can you perform single value decomposition, and you can interpret this single value decomposition as the estimate. It has been demonstrated. I use this a lot in my work, and if you select properly the influencer, the influencer set, it matches this political or climate or whatever dimension really good. The trick, what you should be really careful about is the influencer selection. But this is something that you need to do by hand, of course, and with some according to some measure, but can be like I don't know, degree distribution. So usually one of the things that works better is top 300 accounts in terms of degree. And but once you select this is what you have, and you have this projection of users, okay, in this latent space. So you assign to each user one value, one real value, and users that retweeted the same set or similar sets of influencer, they are mapped into close in this latent space. So this is more or less the idea. Okay, the math behind this is kind of boring, and there is also an explanation why you take just the first column, even if you have other columns. The reason is the eigenvalues are ordered in the descending order, and the size of the eigenvalue is proportional to the variance of that dimension. So you take the dimension with the highest variance, essentially, that you believe it's explaining this this opinion distribution. So this is the more or less the idea. I won't go into details. I leave this for in more details. I leave this for question. So given this, how we can apply, where we apply this and what we found. The first is the US election, so 2016 and 2020 US election, presidential election on Twitter. A lot of tweets from a fair amount of users. We also use some different data to validate our selection of influencers and so on and so forth. And we studied the presence of fake news and especially the level of polarization. I will just speak about the level of polarization here. So, okay, what happening? You perform these techniques, and this is the visualization. These are the top 5 influencers for each political category. Okay, and what is happening here? The distribution are the box plots represent the distribution of the ideology of the retweeters. And if you compare 2016 and 2020, what you find? You find that the box plot essentially shrinked from both from like left-leaning categories, then for right-leaning categories. So the center disappeared, and you can quantify this. You can quantify with some with some tests. One is the deep test of bimodality, and you see that you can see that the distribution of both users and influencers in 2020 is more less unimodal than the distribution in 2016. So you can quantify this shift. And yeah, then we perform some safety checks to see. Actually, this is funny because reviewers they didn't believe us. They say that this was wrong, that my code was there was a bug in my code. That is, of course, impossible by design. And yeah, this is the first case in which we applied this technique. Then why not? Why don't apply this to other dimension, to other debates? Not only politics is polarized. So COP, Conference of Parties, climate change, COP21 versus COP26, the 2 most popular COPs, and also here we use Twitter data, and then what we did, what we compared the same the distribution of this opinions, okay, and what we found also here, we found that there was an increase in polarization, but here the story is different because while in the past, in the previous case, there was this shift from the center, okay, to the left or to the right, probably in consequence as Trump was really it's really a polarizing figure, and here the situation was a little bit different. Here there was a lot of people, okay, that were not present in that were not tweeting, not interacting with the climate change debate before, that entered in the discussion after 2019, after Friday for Future, okay, after the hype of Friday for Future, probably in response to this. So this is kind of suggesting a more or less backfire effect, probably, and but not a real shift in the political in the climate ideology, let's say. Finally, okay, other context, Pakistani politics, okay, Pakistan, different from US, is much less, according to the freedom index, is much less, has much less freedom in terms of freedom of speech and so on and so forth. So this work is thanks to Anis, that had this great idea. Okay, so here we have 5 years. Okay, so we studied 5 years of evolution, and also here, what we found that the polarization increased. Why the polarization increased? Because here we have 3-party system that can be clearly identified by 3 peaks. Okay, in the opinion distribution. But since the 2 parties on the right eventually formed a coalition to overturn the government, they started to merge over time, and this is reflected this decreased distance in the real world alliance is reflected in this latent space. Okay, so it seems to be really correlated. And you can also visualize this with some just retweet networks, and also with retweet networks, you see that if you compare 2018 to 2022, there is this decrease in the distance between these 2 parties. And this increase, actually, there is an increase in the distance with the other party. There are less connection respect to 2018. So more important here is that there were like 3 politicians that changed party affiliation. Okay, so they joined the opposition, and even their position changed in this representation, and also in this latent space. These are these blue dots here. Okay, here and here. So this technique seems to be able to reflect like a real world political alliance, at least in Pakistan, not only at like a party level, but also at individual level. And this is really, really, really interesting. So it is so simple. This seems to be powerful, really kind of easy to just collect some data, and then you select the influencer, and you have your you have your latent space. So is this so easy? Well, not so much, in the sense that why this thing is working, because you are making the implicit assumption that user form echo chamber, or at least form coherent clusters, okay, or communities, whatever you want to call them, in online debates. So there is a high degree, okay, of homophily. So if you agree with Trump, it's unlikely that you will retweet content from Biden. That is reasonable, okay, especially if you take the big picture and not at the individual level. So that's why this technique works. But where it fails, okay, there are some cases in which this technique doesn't work. For example, on YouTube, it's extremely difficult to apply this on YouTube, because your network is so disconnected that you can't find any, like, if you try to download YouTube data about climate change, okay, you just get some bunch of video, and it's not enough to reconstruct a network connected enough to perform this technique. And when data are not reaching out enough, so when you cannot find any connection, of course, you cannot infer you cannot use this, you cannot buy the network, and so you cannot use this, while it's possible, for example, to infer people opinion with other methods, like, I don't know, using domains, for example. Even if you don't have a network, you can still do that. And the biggest problem is when there are some conflicting factors that segregate users. For example, geography, language. This is usually the first dimension. Like people from India are more likely to retweet another people from India, independently from the political or climate ideology. than people from US. And so if you just take probably the top any influencer on let's say global debate, okay, it's likely that you will find geographical segregation. So last thing, then I finish. How we can reduce polarization online? Well, nobody knows. We are doing a review on this, actually. Well, not me alone, of course. And some approaches include deplatforming, some approaches include rewiring, some suggest shadow banning, but no one knows how much how much all these things works. Like the platforming, for example, one could say, okay, if I take out the extreme, I reduce the polarization. Yes, but they are not going to disappear. They are just shifting in some other places. And the case of Gab or all the fringe social media, other fringe social media is the best example. So that's it. I think I am on time, more or less. And thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. Are there any questions? You can either just turn on your microphone or you can raise your hand in the chat. If people still think about a question, I have a first question, which is you talked about identifying influences in these polarizing debates or in these polarizing topics. And I guess for in politics or in political debates, it's very straightforward who the influencers are. Yeah. For the debates that are where it's less clear who is an influencer and who is not, do you see, like, what is your common approach to identify them, and does your results change a lot, or are they robust against changing of the influences? Well, or how does it change? How big is the changes? Yes.
So it's big in the sense that you can, in principle, here, okay, you can easily cheat on you can select the influencers, and depending on how you select the influencer, you can cheat and find unimodal distribution instead of bimodal. It will be more difficult to find a bimodal distribution if the distribution is unimodal. Sometimes it happens to be really unimodal without anyone on the centered in zero and with few outliers, more or less normally distributed around zero. And so how to be sure that this is your selection is meaningful and so on and so forth? Well, usually what you can do is something very simple. So you rely on the fact that on echo chambers there is also a coherent consumption of sources. Okay. And so you look at the sources consumed by one side and by on the other side, and you more or less you find the same results. Okay, probably you will be able to classify much less users, but the correlation between I did this for in at least in actually I always did this. But it was one of the side results I found when I used this technique the first time here in the US debate, and the correlation between the leaning of users obtained by this ideology technique and the correlation of users obtained by just using URL, the domain they publish. Okay, you can go to, for example, media bias fact check, and there are you have the leaning. They label the leaning of or you can use NewsGuard, that is even more fancy and costly, and you can label users based on this, okay, based on what the link they share, and you can assign them a political leaning. Is what we did with the echo chamber paper. Okay, here there is no politics, but we did it for abortion, we did it for vaccine, for example. Okay, and also for GAB we did, and so you do this, and it correlates at 96%.
Okay. Okay,
This
super.
is solid
Thanks.
enough, I think.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Are there any other questions in the chat? Any questions? If not, we can go to the second part of this talk, which will be a discussion about research visits and how to approach them, how to get the most out of them. Very nice. Can you make it full screen again?
Yeah, sure.
Super.
So, as some of you may know, I have been visiting CAU like last spring for 2 months, and
wait really quick. It's still not in the full screen mode. Maybe. Can you...
What? Sorry. I think I guess I have to share it again. Now,
yes.
Now
super.
it is full screen, right?
Thank you.
Sure. So basically, this is why I will speak about my experience and what I did there. So, and how I do believe is, I mean, this is personal, of course. This may vary a lot from based on how much you want to do research, how much you want to have fun, how much you want to how much you like to speak with other people, and so on and so forth. So first of all, why you should do a research visit? Well, fun, curiosity, find new opportunities. Yes, of course, this is really both. All of these 3 reasons are good enough to have a research visit. But recently, a paper that I would love to write say that you should be there to have a better idea. Okay, that remote collaboration are less. I mean, yeah, they just you just have fewer great idea when you work remotely. So this is probably one of the best reasons I would suggest to do a research visit, but this is not the only one, of course. There are many. And I believe that seeing something different is good, is probably one of the best. So you are more aware of what you have in your place and what you can find in other places. So, but what I did at CAU, this is the slide that made Janos laughing. So I'm really proud of it. Yeah, I did a little bit of research and a lot of other stuff that helped me to do research properly, honestly, because I cannot do good research. I don't know if I can do good research, but I cannot do research, any kind of research, if I don't enjoy life enough. And so that's why I did this. And this is some of the thing I got from there. So some money, because I was paid when I was there. Still 0 paper, but that is not my fault, honestly. At least I don't believe it's totally my fault. But I don't care. I didn't went there for looking for, okay, I need to find a new paper, to make a new paper with some cool guys. But a lot of new friends, like some of them are listening here. So I did a lot of things. So I climb, I do parties with the Pasturatore Folle, I was really sad when I left. I was really happy when I came back. And I came back to bother all of you, or some of you that are listening again, speaking with my Elzio, that is my official producer. And of course, I found Basti as a friend that invited me here. So this presentation is his fault, and you should blame him if this was not good enough for you. And that's it.
Thank you very
I
much.
think.
Before we do open the discussion, maybe can you quickly say how you come to choose this place? What was the process to like figuring out where to go, to meeting the people that hosted you, to figuring out the money to come here? What was this process?
So that was really random actually, but this is the importance I believe that's why important to have a visit research experience, to go to conference and so forth. If you are like a real big guy, if you already are a full professor, then maybe you can say, I don't want to go to conferences are a waste of time. You just stay there, pretend to listen, and then you do your own stuff. But actually, the first conference, I was not so lucky with the PhD because I did the 2 of my 3 years of PhD during the COVID pandemic, so I couldn't go abroad. Everybody was working remotely, so it didn't make sense to work to go abroad. My abroad experience was the US paper, and they did it totally remote, totally from home. And yeah, so I went to Complex Network 2022. I met Professor Petra Novak, and so I discussed it with her, and she said like, "Oh, I have some funds. Would you be interested in coming here to Mons in Vienna and do some research, some further research on climate change, because I have this small project with climate change, about climate change." I say like, yes, why not? Because she has been the reviewer of my PhD thesis, so she knew Walter, she knew that Walter is my PhD supervisor, and it seems to be a great opportunity. She offered me some money, of course. And so I say like, okay, jump into this opportunity. And that's it.
Thanks a lot. I open the discussion to people that are listening. Are there any questions? You can just unmute you and ask questions. Would be very happy. No, may we wait very quickly? Any questions? Maybe during the time that people figure out questions.
So
I
I have a question.
Yes, thank you.
So Ale, from I don't know, the perspective of maybe a supervisor, how can a supervisor facilitate your staying at some place during your visit? What do you think are some suggestions for supervisors to help?
You mean like what you should do to force your supervisor, what a supervisor would do?
Yeah, from a supervisor perspective, what
well,
supervisor
it
can
is
do to help students during their visit?
Well, first is like founding them enough. This is something really, I mean, it was really important for me that I didn't have to worry about money when I was there, because if you do like a visit experience on a budget, maybe it's not so great. It's like if you go there and you say like, oh, this is I have to be careful about how much money I spend, and so on and so forth. This is not really good. And second, it was crazy that Petra knew Walter. Petra knew Fabiana, so my supervisor, my PhD supervisor and my postdoc supervisor, and they didn't like talk with each other like, oh, I have this project this morning on climate change to spend. I have to spend them. Oh, I did some work on climate change. That's it. Like this is, I think, increasing communication. That would be great. It's like because I mean, some are just Walter, for example. He didn't care. He just didn't care about sending me abroad. You said he was like, oh no, you should do great paper, great paper, great paper. That is okay. It's nice. For sure, it worked with me because I was with COVID. But the first time I went on a conference, no one even know my face. And then I say like, see, yeah, I wrote this paper, I read your paper. Really? I didn't know. I didn't expect anyone to read my paper. But then I realized that some people are actually doing that. And, so yeah, answering to your question, I guess, having a network and as a supervisor, exploiting your network to send the right people to the right places. That is
super. Are there any other
Thanks.
questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Ciao, Gali. This might be a stupid question, but how much time do you think it's you have to be while visiting a place? For example, I know that you, for instance, it is a matter of money and personality, but you in 1 week here, everybody already loved you, but should you spend like 2 months here in order to create the connections, or 20 days is enough, or even less, or a little bit more?
That's a thought question. I guess this really depends on the environment you are visiting, on the time you are visiting, and also on what exactly you want to do. If you just want to meet people and say like, okay, I exist, that's okay. That's like even a week or 2 weeks might be okay. But I cannot see like to be integrated and to be remembered in like people will remember you if you stay there less than I don't know, 1 month. I'm not sure. Like even with for younger people like me, it's okay. You will meet because you will go out, you will do a lot of activities. But for example, I spoke with Janos after 1 month the first time. So, and that's to reach the the faculty, maybe you need more time. So probably, I guess at least I would suggest at least a month, at least. But this of course depends.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? If not, I have a quick question, which is out of your experience that you had here in Vienna, what would you like if you would do it again, or if you could do it again, what would you do differently? Is there anything that you regret, or any major regrets that you learned from?
Yeah, I would stay more. No, but seriously, in Vienna, I don't have a regret about Vienna. I honestly, I had two quite opposite visiting experience. The first was during my master thesis in Taiwan, okay? And there I was younger, I was much, less aware of how things work, and the environment was totally different. And so there I have regret because I would say like just have more fun and think less about academia and thesis and so on and so forth. There in Vienna, I don't have any. I think I went there. I came there with the right mentality, with the right perspective. Okay, so it was okay for me. Probably I would if one thing I could do, probably I would speak a bit more with some professors, but this is just for work, so depends on what you want to do to get from that. You can always. My point is that you can always work remotely, but you cannot, do networking remotely. It's much more difficult than work remotely.
If you feel uncomfortable asking questions with the microphone or with the camera, you can also put it into the chat, and then I will ask Gale these questions. Are there any more questions? If not, I have another question. I have so many questions. I'm sorry. So I have the question: how did coming to Vienna change your, let's say, collaboration portfolio? So the type, my guess is the type of people that you collaborated with before was a community, and then you came here, and then are you working on papers right now with people from Vienna, or people that you met during that time or got introduced during that time?
Well, unfortunately, not. I mean, more or less. Yuli bothered me a lot about for having some data, and then also Yijing. With Yijing, we did the paper together in complexity 72-hour workshop that went really good, in my opinion, at least. So yeah, it changed not only the, let's say, the immediate network of collaboration, but the future network for collaboration, yes. And the fact that now some probably of the best people working in this field, okay, because at the CEU there is a lot of really good scientists. Now they know me, they know my face, they know who I am. So if I have an idea and say, okay, I have this idea, maybe I don't have time to develop them. That's the actual problem. But I can write an email them, and they are likely to answer. If you do that, and you are a random PhD student or a random postdoc, it's less likely that someone will answer or will start a collaboration. I would be less comfortable to start a collaboration with someone that I know nothing, because it can be like completely crazy, and I can go crazy to stay, to keep working with this guy. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I still consider, human interaction and networking more important than paper itself. And this is something that I don't know if you heard the name, but Luciano Pietronero said to my PhD advisor, at the end of your career, one paper more and one paper less won't make a lot of difference. Networking, the people you met, the fun you had, this is probably more. This will be probably more important.
Thank you.
That's not my wisdom, of course.
Sure. I don't want to dominate the discussion with my question. So, is there any? Does anybody want to contribute their experiences with going abroad? Anything to add, or does anybody have any experience with the funding? Because I guess for Alessandro, the funding was more like an external professor had the funding to invite you, but I guess this is not typical, the typical way how this works. No. Yeah. Does anybody have any experience to contribute, or maybe Gale, do you have experience in how this typically works?
In here you have, like in Italy, there are like Erasmus funding also for PhDs. So you can, I think they are European, so you can apply for them. This can be a great, I mean, I don't know how much they are, but you can always have some money. And then you have some visiting project, so on and so forth. Let's say that this really depends on where where are you going? Because there is also a huge gap from countries to countries, like and usually you get more or less the same amount of money if you go visiting I don't know, at least according to Erasmus ranking, if you go visiting someone in Denmark or if you go visiting someone in Spain, I get, or in France, you get more or less the same money, but the cost of the life is totally different. So what I would do is, if you want to go to a specific place that you know is costly, just aim for something that is from that place, because it will probably fit better the cost of life.
Thank you. Please, if you have any questions, raise your hand or unmute you and just talk into the microphone or put it into the chat. I have one maybe last question, and then people can figure out if they have anything to add. So my question is from the other side, so not from the person who is visiting a place, but more like from the point of view of people who are welcoming visiting young researchers, especially if you are young yourself. What can we do to make visiting researchers feel welcome or include them very quickly? Do you have anything from your experience, or what you think is a good approach to visiting young visiting researchers, especially if they're just there for a limited amount of time? Anything that helps accelerate the process of feeling comfortable or feeling welcome?
For me, it was really helpful that you include me immediately in every activity without being snobbish, picky, or whatever. This I valued a lot, and the fact that you had in Vienna, you had lunch together, so this helped a lot to meet people, to chat with others, and in general all the extra activities. And I try, for example, there was someone visiting Padua recently, not because I invited it, but because my boss invited it. Okay, and he was there for a limited amount of time, like 3 days. But I still say okay, once we can go out and have a pizza together and this kind of stuff. This is usually something nice that you don't. This is not unlimited time, so that you need to exploit it as much as possible. And I guess this is what extra activities is behind the academic stuff is the best way to have people involved into as fast as possible into the loop.
Super, thank you very much. I have asked enough questions. I want, if anybody has a final question, maybe. Any last questions? Wait, really quick. Any last questions? If not, then I like to thank Alessandro again. It was very, very nice. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining this talk. There was a lot of people. Very cool. I think the next seminar, and correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, Elzio, you have you did sorry, an applause. I think check out our website for when the next talk will be. I think it is the first week of February. So there is a 2-week break. I don't want to say anything wrong, so please check out and follow us on Twitter or on Blue Sky or on Mastodon. Mastodon not, but Blue Sky and Twitter. We will make announcements of the next talk. And yeah, thank you all for being here. And thank you, Alessandro, again for this nice talk.
Thank you,
let's
man.
stop
Thank you for
recording.
inviting me.
Thank you, Gale.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
Gale.
Bye-bye.